No voice, no data from the crew.
On April 10th, 4 people came home. The headlines said, "Successful mission, perfect return." But for 4 minutes, no one knew if they would, not even NASA. Artemis II is over. The crew survived. The capsule held. The mission succeeded. But there's something they didn't show you. Before launch, a former NASA astronaut ran the numbers, and the number they got wasn't reassuring. 1 in 20. Not 1 in 500, not 1 in 1,000. 1 in 20 that something would go wrong. And if it did, there would be no warning, no abort, no escape, just heat. And something inside the spacecraft had already done this before. For 4 minutes, Mission Control saw nothing. The crew said nothing. And whatever was happening inside that capsule was happening alone. This video is about those 4 minutes and the version of this mission that almost happened. The one where the signal never came back and someone had to knock on a door and explain why. This is what almost happened. In December 2022, NASA launched Artemis I. No crew, just a test. The mission went perfectly. Orion circled the moon, took photographs, came back exactly as planned. Then engineers flipped it over and looked at the heat shield. What they found, nobody expected. Over 100 locations where the material had cracked, fractured, came off in ways they didn't expect. Not small chips, chunks. The shield was designed to burn away evenly, layer by layer, like a candle melting from the outside in. Controlled, predictable, safe. It hadn't done that. Instead, gas had built up inside, pressure had formed, and when the capsule hit the atmosphere, those pockets released suddenly, pushing material outward, popping chunks of the shield into the hypersonic slipstream, like blisters bursting on sunburned skin. NASA spent 2 years investigating, 100 tests across the country, 200 samples analyzed. They found the cause. They designed a fix. The fix was for Artemis III. Because by the time they understood what went wrong, the Artemis II shield was already built, already bolted on. Replacing it would mean years of delay, years of budget pressure, years of political pressure, years of a program already half a decade behind schedule. So they made a decision. Fly it as is. The logic went like this. The damage on Artemis I was caused by a specific reentry profile, a skip reentry, where the capsule dips into atmosphere, bounces back up, then plunges in again. During that bounce, the outer shield layer cooled and sealed, trapping gas underneath. If they changed the trajectory, kept the shield under continuous heat, the gas would vent normally. No buildup, no pressure pockets, no chunks blowing off. Simple fix, different angle, problem solved. That was the theory. But former astronaut Charles Camarda didn't agree. A heat shield expert, part of the first shuttle crew to fly after Columbia. He ran his own numbers. 1 in 20 chance of catastrophic failure. He said NASA had not fully modeled how cracks could propagate under the modified trajectory, that the decision to fly was driven by schedule pressure, not engineering certainty. He invoked Columbia by name. February 1st, 2003. 7 astronauts died when superheated air penetrated a breach in the thermal protection system. Engineers had flagged the problem. Management had declined to investigate. The logic was simple. It had worked before. It would probably work again. It didn't. 23 years later, NASA was making a similar calculation. Commander Reed Wiseman sat in the engineering meetings, walked through every data point, and said publicly, "If we stick to the new re-entry path, this heat shield will be safe to fly." He had 2 daughters at home. He signed anyway. April 10th, 7:53 p.m. Eastern. Orion crossed 400,000 feet, traveling at 24,661 miles per hour, nearly 35 times the speed of sound. The atmosphere began to bite. Within seconds, air molecules compressing against the heat shield superheated into plasma, 5,000 degrees Fahrenheit, half the temperature of the surface of the sun. Through the windows, the crew watched the world turn to fire. And then, communications went dead. The plasma surrounding the capsule blocked every radio signal.
No voice, no data from the crew.
No contact, no telemetry, no way to reach anyone. In Mission Control, Flight Director Jeff Radigan and his team sat in silence, staring at screens that showed nothing, listening to speakers that played nothing. The most capable aerospace engineers on the planet, able to do absolutely nothing. For 4 minutes, the avcoat was either venting gas the way it was designed to, or it wasn't. Either the modified trajectory was keeping the shield permeable, or it wasn't. Either Camarda was wrong, or he wasn't. Nobody knew. Not Mission Control, not the engineers, not NASA, not even the crew. Because if the shield was failing, if pressure pockets were forming, if chunks were blowing off, there was nothing any of them could do about it. No abort button, no escape system, no backup shield. The heat shield either works or it doesn't. For 4 minutes, they waited. This is the part nobody covered. If the shield had failed, not catastrophically, not all at once, but enough. If pressure pockets had formed, the way they did on Artemis I, if chunks had blown off, exposing the underlying structure, superheated plasma at 5,000 degrees would have found the gap. It wouldn't have been instant. The capsule's composite structure, reinforced with titanium, would have resisted for seconds, maybe longer. Long enough for the crew to know something was wrong. Long enough for instruments to register the temperature spike. Long enough for 4 people to understand what was happening and be completely unable to stop it. But that's not what happened. At 8:07 p.m. Eastern, Orion splashed down in the Pacific Ocean off the coast of San Diego. A perfect bullseye. For Artemis III, a redesigned shield with better permeability is already in production. The bet NASA made on Artemis II will not need to be made again. But here is what stays with you. 4 people knew the number. 1 in 20. They read the reports. They saw the cracks. They understood exactly what they were sitting on. And they climbed in anyway. Not because they weren't afraid, because they decided the mission was worth the mathematics. 13 minutes from atmosphere to ocean. 4 minutes of silence. 4 minutes where everything either held or it didn't. It held. But for 4 minutes on the evening of April 10th, 2 daughters in Maryland were watching a screen, waiting for a signal that almost never came back. It did, this time.